presents. Welcome back to my channel, or if you're new, welcome to my channel. Happy Easter, first of all. Welcome to the kickoff of my series, my yoga journey. So for today, kicking it off with a story time of my teacher training journey. Let's see, I took teacher training twice, and then I took like a few classes of like a 24-hour period. So teacher training has to have like 500 hours to be able to become a yoga instructor, but you can start teaching at 200 hours. So that being said, I took like 3 different things in teacher training. They'll have to do like 75 hours or something like that to be able to finish my full amount of hours. I took the same teacher training series twice, but let me tell you, it was different each time. And we'll get into why in a minute. I might end up having to split this up. I'm sorry if you can hear that. My cat's making tons of noise in the background, and I'm not going to stop her because she always does this, and then I feel bad when I yell at her. So just ignore her noises. She's playing around in my vanity back there and whatever. Nova? Nova? What are you doing? Hi. Come here. Come on. Oh. This is Nova, and she says hi. She says hi. Hi. She's gonna sit in my lap now. So, as you guys know, from my previous video, I have been doing yoga on and off for basically all of high school, did aerobics and started yoga there, and then from there I would watch videos doing yoga, and eventually I wanted to go to a studio. Doing yoga at a studio was pretty awesome. I would talk to each teacher that I went to and tell them, hey, you know, I have a back problem. I can't bend the majority of my spine because I got spinal fusion surgery. I can pretty much do, you know, anything that I put my mind to. And boy, was I wrong. Let me tell you. Turns out that I was doing pretty much every twisting pose, every back bend that I could think of, and a lot of poses I was doing so wrong, but I'm really glad that I went into teacher training when I did, because it could have turned into a repetitive motion injury, and I don't want that, you know. Yoga's a lot harder than I led myself to believe. So going into this class, I really didn't know what I signed myself up for. And a lot of story times out there about their teacher training, a person's teacher training experience, a lot of people say that. Because what you expect when you go into a yoga teacher training is to learn how to teach asana. You don't expect it to have the spiritual aspect to it, philosophy, if you will. You don't expect it to have anatomy to it. You don't expect to have to do writing prompts and have to learn basically a new language. And that's basically what it was. I was basically learning a new language, and, you know, I was learning a lot. But my personal experience is I loved it. I do know a few people who had issues with the teacher that I was with. Now it turns out that she loves it. She really likes the teacher, and she even went to teacher training a second time, you know? So, into class, and I talked to Tiffany about the back issues that I have, and she looks at me, and she looks me up and down, and she goes, okay, I do see the physical problems, not real problems, but the physical issues that you're bringing up, and we're gonna try and work on it. Now, I started really small, even though I was in a teacher training. I would not do any inversions. I was okay with balancing poses. Like I would attempt over and over to do crow or firefly or whatever. I'm not going to get into the Sanskrit right now because I don't know who's going to be watching my series. So if I speak the Sanskrit, you might not know what poses I'm talking about, and I guess I could put pictures here, but that requires me to transfer from my computer to my tablet to be able to put pictures in because I don't have a editing program on my computer that allows me to do overlay. Anyway, I was okay with doing balancing poses like crow or attempting to do firefly with how tight my hamstrings are. But I wouldn't do inversions, and I would do the smallest back bends that I could possibly do because, well, my spine doesn't, it doesn't bend, you know? It's straight. Well, it's not straight to the aspect that it's just straight, but it's straight as in it has its natural curve, and that's pretty much it. So getting into it, I didn't know that teacher training was going to be what it was. And it was just crazy to me because the first couple of days in teacher training, it would always go like this. We would have 2 hours of yoga asana practice, and then the rest of the day we would do, well, depending on the day. One day we had like 4 hours, another day we had like 12 hours, and another day we had like 7 hours. Not really that long, but you know, it felt like that when you're doing yoga all day. So it would always start off with 2 hours of yoga practice, and then say on Friday it would be 2 hours of philosophy. And then Saturday would be the longest day from like 9 to 7 or something like that, maybe 6. And it would be 2 hours of asana practice, and then we would go on a break for 2 hours, and then we would come back and do some book work, and then we would practice poses singularly, and then we would sit and do book work, and then we would practice teaching, and then we would sit and do book work and then leave. And that's how Sunday pretty much went, but shorter. With that being said, I think on a Friday we were introducing ourselves to each other, and we had to partner up with other people around us and basically let them know who we are. We had to tell them, you know, our name and one interesting fact about us, and then what got us into teacher training, I think. Don't quote me on that. And then we also had to take pictures of each other in Tadasana, because at the very beginning of practice we would take pictures of our Tadasana now and then take pictures of our Tadasana at the very end and see the progress. And if I can figure out how to edit those pictures in, I will put them here and here. So we did that, and then like the second day we went in and we did a lot of really cool work-throughs, I guess you could say, where, you know, you would walk in a circle and there would be 2 circles. So we would have one circle in the middle who would be turning this way, and then an outer circle that would be turning this way. We were supposed to be looking at, you know, the opposite circle, at the faces of the people, and just see them. And then we had to smile at them, and then we had to walk faster and smile at them. And it was a work through, because it was supposed to be able to teach us how to look at our students with eyes of love. And it was hard because I don't look people in the eye very much. Even now, I'm looking at the camera in the lens, and all I want to do is look at myself in the viewfinder. And I know that when I look at the camera in the lens, that I'm basically looking you in the eyes. And I find find myself often talking to people, but I'm facing the other way, or I'm looking down at what I'm doing. I don't turn my body and look at them and then say what I'm supposed to say. It's pretty hard to be able to look somebody in the eyes and on top of that smile, but it really helped, and I gained a lot of really good friendships from teacher training, and I'm more than happy that this is the way that teacher training went for me, So getting a little bit more into it, we would do some different practices, and we would learn different movement principles and what they meant and what you're supposed to teach during these movement principles. And we were supposed to be able to pick out during our 2-hour practice at the beginning of each day what movement principle it was, and then write out the sequence that we did and learn how a sequence should be written out. And there's different parts to the body of a sequence and how a sequence should be written out, So that was really hard, and to this day I still kind of don't get that aspect. I mean, I try, but it's a little hard. I do have some sequence that I have written out in notebooks, but those are in my car and I'm not going to pull them out and show you. Maybe another time. But that being said, I was never really into doing like back bends or inversions, so Tiffany would always put me into the easiest back bends and the easiest inversions that there were. Like, instead of doing wheel pose, I was doing bridge pose, and instead of doing shoulder stand, I think I would do vibrated karate or legs up the wall, like a working legs up the wall, not a relaxed one. Eventually, I got there. I started, doing back bends and inversions in my next teacher training. And I fell in love with yoga, and I fell in love with the sutras. And I was the happiest that I had ever been. This is the time that I started to learn that I really need to take care of myself. And I was in the bad relationship that I was in most recently back then too. And this was also around the time that I broke up with him for 9 months. And I started to really just go out there and do what I knew I was supposed to do, And I gained friends from that class that I still talk to today. And I still ask them questions, and I still hear them ask questions. And on the Facebook group that we created specifically for these teacher training classes, we still go to those groups and ask questions and let them know what's going on in our yoga life. And it's really nice because you gain friendships for life via teacher training. And you don't have to do it to become a teacher. You can do it to deepen your practice, although it is encouraged to get your certificate anyway, because then you have a backup plan to fall on. You're already paying that much amount of money to be able to be in this class. Why not do the work on top of it, And it's not that hard to get your certificate to graduate either, and continue, just do it, just put in the work, just learn, just practice teaching and record yourself teaching so that you can hear how you're doing. So I think I am gonna continue. My camera doesn't say how long I've been recording. That's weird. I just noticed that. Anyway, I think that you should just continue. I am going to continue on to my second teacher training and tell you the first teacher training was very spiritual for me, learning a lot about myself and how I should take care of myself. And then the second teacher training was very physical for me. I started to learn how to get into inversions and how to get into back bends despite the fact that my spine was fused, and I'll get into that. I started to really work on myself here, and when I would do twists, I started to learn how to twist more from my upper half of my body instead of my lower half of my spine. And I started to learn how to work these muscles up here and then the lower muscles on the bottom, because a twist isn't necessarily that you're twisting your spine, but that you're working the muscles that would be twisting. That's what it is when you have a fused spine, and that's what it is the same in back bends or forward folds. If you can't get into it per se, then you get into it by working the same muscles that would be worked in that pose. And it's so crazy because I eventually learned how to move the upper vertebra that were free and the lower vertebra that were free. And I eventually learned how to gain flexibility in order to be in a back bend or a forward fold of some sort. And it was just great. And I started out with wheel pose in my first teacher training on 2 chairs in order to work the muscles that needed to be worked. At the end of my second teacher training, and I'll insert a picture right here because obviously I'm gonna have to transfer from my computer to my tablet, but I went from wheel pose on 2 chairs to wheel pose on the floor with a strap and a block, I think it was. I was actually in wheel pose despite the fact that I had 11 or 12 vertebrae. Despite the fact that I had 11 or 12 vertebrae fused out of 24 vertebrae, I think it is. And that's crazy for me. At least half of my spine is fused, and that includes the neck too, you know, the neck vertebra all the way down to the very bottom. It does not include the cervical spine, yeah. But it includes all the ones that are free to move and whatnot, and I actually did it. And granted, it didn't look like as big of a back bend as one would think, but it was a back bend nonetheless. And I was actually able to get up off the floor with the help of a strap and a block. And I remember that day, it was so freeing to know that my spine doesn't define who I am, and to know that I can do anything that I put my mind to, because my mind is what's in control, not my body. And it's so crazy to think about. If I put in the same effort that I did after my spine was fused, say for instance I never got my spine fused, and I put in the same effort in yoga that I did when my spine is fused, even without a fused spine, how flexible would I be? But then you also have to think, if my spine never became fused, would I be doing yoga right now? And I think that's where I'm going to end this video. And I know that it's not a long video and it was kind of everywhere. I'm really good at making story times go everywhere. But it was a great start to this series. Now I am going to tell you that I reordered Chip Hartranft's Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, and it's in the mail. It should be here by like the 7th, so by the time that the next video goes up, we will be able to read some sutras together. And I'm wondering if I'm going to get something different out of it this time than I did when I was in teacher training. So I'm actually really excited to be able to read those with you. And then I also have plans of going through a sequence and how to write a sequence and what sequences require. If I can find my sutra book, not my sutra book, my manual written by Annie Carpenter. You know, we could go through some structures of anatomy in Ray Long's book, and I can show you, you know, what muscles are working in what yoga poses and all of that. And I'm just really excited to be able to go through this with you and teach you how to be able to meditate without the help of, you know, YouTube. And how to be able to build your own practice that you can do on your own at home. And I just can't wait. I'm excited. So yeah, if you like this series, you know, if you want to see more, if you're super excited, if you are as excited as I am, for instance, then please give this video a big thumbs up because it helps me out a lot. It lets me know that you do like it. Comment down below, what was your teacher training experience like? I want to know. I want to hear it. I want to know how it changed your life. And yeah, don't forget to subscribe, become a member of the Crescent family, and take a bite of that moon. Yeah, I am very everywhere in this outro, but don't forget to kiss that bell icon and turn on post notifications, and yeah, I'll see you guys next time.